Hello, Brian.
Hello, Mohit.
How are you doing?
I'm
Good
very
to see
well,
you, my friend.
And you, and you.
Good to see you.
It's been too long.
Welcome, welcome. Yes, absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful to see you. And we have friends joining in now, Brian, for your magical session. This is going to be so awesome. We're going to be talking about all the gadgetry and all the equipment. A lot of people called me today and said, "Hey, what time are we going live? Will we have time? And I want to see. I can't attend, and will I get a replay link? And a whole lot of things." I think people are super excited. So welcome, Brian. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see you all here. Let me hear from all of you. Namaste, namaskaram, vanakkam. Welcome, Avinash. Welcome, Salil. And I have Shashi, Craig, Yogesh, Praveen, Pramod, Paddy, Kanchana, Maneet. Maneet, good to see you, my friend. Betty, Chandrika, Peter, Prithvi, Rajesh, Shamal. Welcome. And we have Mr. King, Mr. Alf King. How are you doing, Mr. Alf King? Good to see you here. Indrajit, and we have lots of oh good. So it's it's afternoon for people in England. It's 3 p.m. for you there.
Yes.
Good. Yes, absolutely. Great. So I'm just going to wait for another minute or so, and then I'll be introducing Brian to all of you. He doesn't need much introduction, right, except that he sent me something in writing which I'm going to read out to you. So, Iqbal, good evening. Good to see you. And thank you, Salil, for helping me out with this webinar. And thank you, Priya. So here I go. Let me introduce Brian to you, my friends. Brian has been interested in birds since childhood and has birded extensively in his home county of Worcestershire, where he runs the Worcester Birding Twitter page that keeps local birders up to date with all the latest bird sightings. He also served as the county bird recorder for Worcestershire and found numerous rare birds over the years, including 4 species of duck from North America, as well as many scarce migratory species. He has birded further afield in the UK and Europe and has developed a growing interest in the bird life of India since first visiting the country in 2016 and each year since. Founded the Birder Store in early 2009 as an online store for opening the shop in Worcester in 2012, where the business has continued to grow and now offers a huge range of optics, accessories, books, and DVDs for birders. So that's about Brian, and Brian is a great friend too. So, and it means a lot to me to see that, it's a very unique store. I think it's a very unique and it's a niche store on this planet. And with the passion that Brian has made this store so effective and so beautiful with his little team there, each and every, I've been to his store in Worcester and I did a day visit. And it was the most magnificent experience that day having lunch with Brian, and how passionately he took me around, showed me his town and his store. It was beautiful. So anytime you're visiting the UK, I'll tell you, this is like a birder's pilgrimage. Okay, this is one of the places you got to visit.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Brian, I am going to read out my introduction quickly and then over to you. So friends who don't know me enough, I am Mohit Agarwal, blessed with 4 children, a son and a daughter, and 2 non-humans. One is a Labrador and the other one is an escapee African grey. Yes, some karmic connection with me. That's how he landed with me. I'm a follower of Shiva, the god of karma. Professionally, I'm an experiential ecotourism specialist with a deep love for nature. I help people travel to some wonderful places in Asia. I'm on the board of Asian Ecotourism Network, and I've been trained and certified by GSTC in sustainable tourism. I'm the founder of Asian Adventures. We're going to complete 27 years in June this year. It is the largest birdwatching tour company in India. I'm also the founder of NettyNetter, an email marketing company. These two companies are on a large mission to help Asian elephants with their corridors, free the Himalayas of plastic waste, and help small wildlife NGOs, and also conserve the ancient Himalayan shrines. So spirituality is one of my my paths in life. So I'm trying to explore more there, which is why ancient Himalayan shrines. So here, that was about me. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So now over to Brian. Brian, the field is all yours. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mohit, very much for that lovely introduction. And good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you are. We'll get started on how to choose birding binoculars and spotting scopes. There is a huge choice of optics on the market now, and so this will really just guide you through some of the main points, what to look for when initially looking for a pair of binoculars or a spotting scope, and then we'll move on to actually how you use your chosen binocular. So we'll just start off for those people that aren't overly familiar with how binoculars work. A few basic points really. So here on the left image, you have a typical binocular. The front of the binocular, you've got the two objective lenses. So this is one of the most crucial parts of a binocular. This obviously determines the amount of light that comes into the binocular and passes through. You've then got the focus wheel, so that will obviously aid gaining a sharp image, whether you're focusing at very close range and then looking out to, well, as far as you can see with your naked eye, but obviously a lot closer. So that's the adjustment there. You've got the strap plug there to attach the strap for carrying. And then on the right-hand side, you've got the opposite end of the binocular. So this is what we call the ocular lens. This is the eye lens, the part of the binocular you put up to your eye. And the eye cup, this is a retractable eye cup, but we'll move on to all these little details a little bit later in more detail, including the Diopter Adjuster there. That's a useful adjuster for compensating for any imbalance between your eyes. And then moving on to basic binocular design. There are two basic designs in binoculars. There's the roof prism here on the left and the poro prism. Poro prism binoculars have sort of fallen out of favor really in recent years. Obviously they're bulkier, larger, a bit more cumbersome to use, particularly if you have large hands. Whereas the roof prism, they're just a much more user-friendly design, more compact, generally lighter, and far more popular now. 30 odd years ago, everybody was using poros, whereas now it's pretty much everyone's using roof prisms. And there are obvious advantages, and the size is clearly the main one. But just to sort of summarize, the roof prism generally more compact, lighter, better for close focus as well. So particularly now with a growing interest in insects, that's a very useful feature. They tend to be fully waterproof unless you're buying very sort of low-end binoculars, but the vast majority of roof prisms are fully waterproof. They are a little bit more expensive than poros, whereas poros offer better value for money. They are larger, heavier, generally longer close focus. Some of them are waterproof, but they often aren't, or they may be just water resistant. So you wouldn't want to get them fully immersed in water, unless you're buying expensive ones. As I say, they tend to be they can leak. But as I say, they are generally less costly. So if you're on a very tight budget, they're certainly worth considering. Up to £100, you'll probably get more bang for your buck if you buy a poro over a roof prism. The image is slightly more pleasing, slight sort of 3D image to the view. So yeah, don't dismiss poros if you are on a tight budget. And then just a brief overview initially of the various things to look for in binoculars, the various specifications that you need to consider. And when you choose binoculars, it's always a compromise. There's no one binocular that fits every purpose that you may need. So there's always a trade-off between magnification, the field of view and close focus and size and weight, etc. For birding, 8 and 10 is generally the most popular magnification size. Objective lens size, this will obviously determine the brightness of the image, but and also the weight. Field of view, again, important. If you've got a wide field of view, it's far easier to locate your subject. And then obviously going back to close focus, watching insects, very, very useful. Depth of field, again, that's useful if you want to quickly refocus onto something that's further back. But we'll go into more detail on all of these things, including eye relief and budget. So starting off with roof prisms, because that's what most birders tend to opt for these days. But even with roof prisms, there's a huge choice, and they can vary greatly in size. So here on the left, you've got a tiny little pair of 8x20 compact roof prism binoculars, and then moving left to right, 832s, and then some 842s, and then up to these monsters on the right here, the 1056 binoculars. So as you can see, there's just in roof prisms, you have to decide what the criteria is you want from your binocular. So the best starting point is to look at magnification. And there are lots of options even within magnification, but generally you're looking at something below 12. 6 and 7 is very good for insects, probably slightly less for birding, but if insects is your thing, then these are certainly worth considering. Wide field of view, bright image, and more importantly, easy to keep steady. And then for birding, you're probably looking at these two really, the middle two, 8 times and 10 times. 8 will give you a brighter image, a nice wide field of view, and they're generally easy to keep steady. Whereas a 10, obviously you'll get a slightly closer view. Your field of view will be slightly compromised, it'll be a little bit narrower, and maybe for some people they're a little bit harder to keep steady. As you increase the magnification of the binocular, any movement in your hand will also be relayed through the binocular. So if you have problems there, probably best to keep with 8. Once you go above 10, it does become more of an issue for most people. So really 12 is probably around the maximum specification in terms of magnification. It's just a steady image is more important than magnification. You naturally want to get closer to the bird, but if you've got a very shaky image, then it isn't going to really gain you an awful lot, and also your field of view will be narrower. So as I say, 8s and 10s are a good compromise. And then in terms of the objective lens size of the binocular, this will determine the brightness of the image and the weight of the binocular. So 2 crucial things there to consider. 20-25 mil compact binoculars, typically weighing around 250 grams, maybe a little bit more. But the field of view will be reasonably narrow, and particularly if you increase that magnification up to 10, so something like a 10-25, that is going to give you a fairly restricted field of view. So I think if you were looking in the compact sort of market, stick with 8s. That gives you the best image. But if you up the size a little bit, maybe 32 mil, this will give you a substantially wider field of view in pretty much every range available. 32 is the best for field of view. A brighter image than the compact, and still reasonably lightweight. So typically around 500 grams, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. Some of the models you may save another 100 grams. And then going up the range, 42. This is typically the sort of standard binocular for a birder. It's the best all-round. Offers the best characteristics. So still a wide field of view, bright image, and medium weight. So not too heavy. Typically around 600 grams, or maybe a bit more if you're looking at the sort of more expensive models. The extra quality glass will add weight. But as I say, 42 is pretty much the go-to binocular. You can go larger, but you won't necessarily gain a huge amount. You'll certainly get a brighter image with the 52s and say the 56s, but your field of view will become progressively narrower, and certainly the weight will rank up. It will just be, if you're out birding all day carrying something that may be weighing up to 1 kilo or slightly more, that will start to give you a bit of neck ache. So I would sort of steer away from that sort of area. unless your sort of interests may be broadened into something like astronomy, maybe that's something worth considering. But for sort of, if you're a pretty much dedicated birder, I would hover around the 32s, 42s. Those are the best options. And then, as I say, field of view, crucial for locating the bird in the first place, particularly if it's something that's fast moving. Maybe it's up in the canopy of a tree, or it's just flying over, and you just catch it in the corner of your eye, and you can, if you've got a nice wide field of view, you can quickly locate the bird. But do be aware of claims of wide fields of view, because on paper they may look fantastic, but in reality, particularly on the cheaper binoculars, just be wary of the blurring and the sharpness around the edge of the binocular. If it's not particularly sharp, you may find that the sort of outer third is maybe a little bit blurred, a bit of curvature there. So in reality, you may find that only the sort of central part of the binocular offers a really sharp image, and then it drops off. But the more money you spend, obviously that will become less of an issue. And just to put, we often get customers who think that the larger objective lens size, so for example a 50mm, will offer a much wider field of view than, say, for example, a 32. But in fact the opposite is true. The 32 will always offer you a much wider field of view. The 50 will obviously let more light in, but field of view, it's always usually hovering around the 32. It will vary from in certain models. Sometimes you'll find a 42 can be very close or even slightly better, but 32 is field of view is usually wins out there. And here, just to put this into practice, you've got this image on the left here. So you're scanning over a lake. You've located a flock of in this case little grebes, so a bird familiar to European and Indian birders alike. And if you're scanning and you've got a very narrow field of view, it may take you a little while to locate. Whereas if you've got a wider field of view, you can normally locate at least one of those birds pretty quickly, and then you'll catch up with all the others. So it is always a really good feature to look in when you're deciding on what binocular to choose. So here is a sort of rough and ready gauge of the fields of view. So if you've got a low magnification binocular, 6.5 here by 32, for example, that will give you a very wide field of view. And then you can see as the magnification increases, it starts to reduce. And then so by the time you've got to something like a 1042, you've sacrificed quite a bit of field of view. So you've obviously gained a bit of detail here, but not the field of view. And as I say, it's critical, particularly again for flying birds. So if you've got a bird out over the in the distance, and you locate something with your naked eye and you want to get onto it quickly, particularly if it's a fast moving bird, then that wider field of view will just give you much more chance of getting onto it in time, because time is critical, of course, with birding. Birds don't wait around to be seen. They just want to move on, and you've got to get onto them as quickly as possible. And then close focus, as I say, close focus is gaining popularity because of the growing interest in insects. Certainly here in the UK during the summer months when birding can go very, very quiet, birders' interests move on to things like butterflies, dragonflies, and close focus can be very useful. So most modern binoculars, most modern roof prism binoculars will close focus down to a couple of meters, and in many cases a lot less. So for example, these nice little cowers here, 1.3 meters, and you may achieve even closer focus than that. So again, if that's something that you like looking at, then close focus is definitely worth popping on the list. And then in terms of the size of the binocular, compacts, again, they've really grown in popularity during lockdown. I think there's more people have gained an interest in wildlife in general, but particularly birding. If they just want to sort of may not be a serious birder, but they're just sort of starting out, or it's just a casual thing and they're out maybe walking the dog, compacts certainly fit the bill there, and they come in all shapes and sizes. Some of them are more practical than others. So you've got the little poro prisms here. These are about as small as you can get in a poro prism, a reverse poro. So it's actually like a reverse of a full-size poro. So rather than looking through the narrow end of the binocular, you're looking through the wider end to make it easier to view. But they're not very compact when they're folded down. So they have their uses, but particularly for people with slightly larger hands but still want a compact, they're a little bit bulkier, so they can be useful there. But roof prisms tend to offer a much more compact option, particularly when you're not using them. So if you want to just slip them in your pocket, these, you know, the double hinge particularly will be the most compact. Offset offset single hinge here. This is pretty unique to Zeiss actually, but again very compact when it's folded down. And then the single hinge, well, that's not much less again than the when it's in its normal usable position. But so dual hinge tend to be the most popular. And then moving on to 32 mil. So these will obviously let more light in, but even 32 mils can vary greatly in size. I mean, look at these. You've got a little 832 on the left-hand side here, probably pretty much the most compact 832 on the market, the Opticron Traveller, and then moving through to a Cower in the middle there, and then premium end Zeiss Victory. Is the actual footprint isn't probably much different, but the length of it is substantially longer. So it's, again, bear in mind the actual physical size of a binocular, even though it may have the same objective lens size, they can widely vary. So that's always worth bearing in mind. Look at the overall dimensions of the binocular, and then moving on to 42 mil. As I say, this is pretty much the sort of standard birding binocular. They're generally more consistent in size. So this one on the right hand side, this is a sort of traditional roof prism, premium end Opticron roof prism, and then these three are all obviously premium end Zeiss, Swarovski, and Leica. Yeah, I mean they're all very good for birding. And then depth of field. Depth of field is critical really, because if you've got something, say you're focused on, so for example here we've got a very smart male variable wheatear taken in the Thar Desert in Rajasthan, and let's say for example you're focused on this bird, and then suddenly in the background something lands on one of the bushes, say mid to, you know, even maybe towards the horizon, and you think, oh, what's that? Well, if you've got good depth of field, you can quickly refocus from the wheatear to the, let's say you're a lagar falcon or something, very, very quickly without much adjustment. You can just fine tune the focus wheel. So low magnification binoculars offer you good depth of field. As you increase magnification, your depth of field becomes much more sensitive, and it can take longer to focus out, which can be critical. Sometimes it's you need seconds to get, particularly if the bird is flying through. So if that lagar falcon was just flying through very fast and you wanted to go from the wheatear to the falcon quickly, with a sort of 8 times is generally has very good depth of field, you can achieve sharp focus before the bird suddenly disappears from view. And then also very critical is eye relief, particularly for spectacle wearers. So if you're a glass wearer, you're naturally going to be pushed back from the binocular if you're wearing your glasses while viewing through the binoculars. And eye relief is a measure of the distance between the eye lens and your eye. And really you're looking for something probably in the range of 15 mil plus to achieve adequate eye relief. And really 20 mil is probably, you know, a lot of modern roof prism binoculars now will offer you something in the region of 20 mil. So the higher the number, the more advantageous it is for spectacle wearers, because there's nothing more frustrating that if you are looking through a pair of binoculars with glasses on, you know, if you can't see the full field of view, you're always going to feel a little bit sort of compromised. So eye relief is certainly definitely, you know, one of the main things you need to consider if you're a glass wearer, no question. And then probably one of the most crucial things is deciding how much to spend. I mean, this is always a tricky one. Obviously, it's going to be determined by what you can afford, but it's easy also to go the other way and think, well, I can sort of get away with, you know, a cheap end binocular, maybe under £100, and then you spend that money, and then in sort of a few months' time you think, oh, I wish I'd spent maybe, you know, a couple of £100 or £300, and then maybe you go there and then you leave it another couple of years and you think, oh, I wish I'd spent, I don't know, say £800 or £1,000, or in India sort of about I think it's about a 1 lakh. you then struggle. You sort of end up spending more than if you just go in and buy a good binocular in the first place. But of course, I know that's not always going to be possible. But sometimes if you just, as they say, buy once and cry once, you know, take the hit, and you'll then have a really good pair of binoculars that will last you, you know, look after them a long time. So it's always a tricky one. But what I generally say to people is that you know, just spend as much as you can afford to buy the best for the money you have, and that really, as I say, involves doing the research and looking at the criteria that we've just gone through, choosing the best options, and the price that you pay will determine really the lens and the glass quality. You know, the more money you throw at it, the quality of the lenses will increase, and that really is the expensive component in any binocular. That's where the money goes. So the premium end of the binocular range, the reason why some binoculars are so expensive is the quality of the glass and the processes that go into producing that glass. And there are various definitions of you know, marketing terms, if you like, of glass, and companies will use various terms. ED, for example, is commonly known as extra low dispersion glass. This will help viewing in low light conditions, and also reduce what is known as chromatic aberration. So this is when you get color fringing around a particular object, particularly if it's say sort of backlit. You sometimes see a purple or maybe a red haze, and these various grades of glass will hopefully reduce that for you. It varies from observer to observer. Some people are more susceptible to seeing this color fringing than others. But again, be wary of the terms being used, because you will see binoculars, for example, maybe under a couple of £100 that have ED glass, and some that will be, you know, considerably more expensive that also say ED glass. And of course, there are different grades of glass, so you will get low-end ED glass and you'll get high-end ED glass. So don't get sort of too bogged down with the definitions. Take some of them with a pinch of salt, and obviously the more you spend in general, the better the quality lenses that you will obtain. And then the lenses themselves will often be coated. Well, they should be coated. Cheap binoculars will have some sort of basic coating layer on them, and coatings are designed really to reduce reflections and flaring, and increase light transmission. But again, the quality of the coatings will be critical. So you'll get things, basic binoculars are say coated, and then you move up to fully coated, multi-coated lenses, and then really what you really want is fully multi-coated lenses. So all the air to glass surfaces have multiple layers of coatings, and this will give you the best viewing experience. You know, it will certainly reduce reflections and glares and things like that. And then phase correction coatings. So again, these help reduce stray light and reflections. Often you'll see in specifications you can be sometimes bamboozled with all the different techno speak and, you know, all these different coatings, and then you get backfall prisms and various other prisms. But backfall prisms are the sort of industry standard. So if you're looking at binoculars, see if you can get those as a sort of bare minimum. They're certainly better quality than, for example, back 7 prisms, which are generally found on cheaper binoculars, and they don't transmit light as well as it backfalls. And then exit pupil. Exit pupil is a measure of the amount of light that reaches your eye. So the light comes in through the front end of the binocular, through the objective lens, and that passes through the binocular to the ocular lens that we saw earlier. And the term exit pupil is really in reference to the amount of light that exits at the eye lens end of the binocular. And the more light that exits the eye lens, the brighter the image will be. That you'll see when you look through the binocular. So for example, something like an 832 will give you a 4 mil exit pupil, and that's basically the magnification of the binocular. So the 8 times divided by the 32 will give you the 32 mil divided by 8 will give you the 4 mil objective lens exit pupil. As you increase the objective lens size, the exit pupil will become larger, so that follows through really, that the more light that will reach your eye. But then you'll see on the 42, as you increase magnification, it then begins to drop off. So again, coming back to 42s, 8 is generally the most popular for birding. And you can actually see this in practice here. So exit pupil on these little compacts at the top, you can see it's quite restricted on those white dots there. And then as you increase the objective lens size, so these are all 8 times, but as the objective lens size increases, it's you can see those exit pupils right there. Those white circles, they progressively become larger, and that's what your eye will see. It will see that extra light coming through. So again, 42 wins out there for brightness. Just going back to the magnification, mentioned earlier that 12 times is pretty much the sort of maximum you can handhold. But if you want extra magnification, so maybe 14, 16, something like that, you can invest in a pair of image stabilized binoculars. They are rather cumbersome. Obviously, they've got slightly quirky looks. They won't be for everybody, and the field of view is pretty much, you know, it's fairly narrow on most image stabilized binoculars because the magnification is so much greater. Your field of view is restricted. But certainly for people that struggle to keep binoculars steady, they're definitely worth considering. You know, you can get 10 times image stabilized binoculars because not everybody can hold 10 times steady. But certainly if you want something stronger than that, but you don't want to go sort of down the spotting scope route, then image stabilization is certainly worth considering. So for example, these are on the left 16 by 42, and these are, I think these were 12 by 30. So these are a little bit more compact, but on a 12 by 30, as you can imagine, the field of view is pretty narrow. But certainly worth considering if, and particularly useful if, say, for example, you're going on a pelagic, on a birding, on a boat trip, and you're bobbing about on a boat, then these are perfect because they really do stabilize the image for you. So in that respect, we sell these to a few well-known pelagic birders in the UK who have bought these, and yeah, they definitely have their place. Swarovski have taken it in a slightly different direction. So this was launched last year. This is the Swarovski NL Pure. This is, you could say, this is a form of image stabilization. They've introduced what they call this forehead rest, which is an optional extra. You can click it into the top on the bridge of the binocular there, and you can extend the forehead adjustment. So you've really got 3 points of contact rather than 2, and it does work. It's surprising on the particularly on the 12-42 option that they offer. This does make quite a difference, but it's a fairly niche product, and it is unique to Swarovski at the moment. Whether any of the other manufacturers will follow suit, time will tell, but it's something else to be aware of. And then warranty. Binoculars have all warranties. They all come with a warranty, but they can vary greatly. You know, from as little as 1 year, which is what you'd expect on a lot of products, but for as long as 30 years. So I mean, it's incredibly generous. But just check the period that is included, because as I say, it can be, you know, quite costly if you have a binocular that packs up after just, you know, say 13 months, and then you know you're out of warranty. So maybe if you need to certainly look at that. And then there are a couple of manufacturers, notably in the UK at least, Hawk and Vortex. They offer a lifetime warranty. And that even covers accidental damage. So if you dropped it, for example, you'd still be covered. If they couldn't repair it, they'd replace it. So again, you've got that peace of mind. But not every manufacturer offers that. So again, it's worth just checking. And then once you've chosen your binocular, it's a case then of familiarising yourself with it and setting it up to suit your eyes and your handling. So critically, pop the strap on. So the strap will typically be a sort of a cord with maybe a padded center, so to sit around the back of your neck. The critical thing is that when you put the strap on, is to feed it through the strap lug of the binocular, and feed the end of the strap through the inside of the buckle. So not through the outside, but the inside, because this will make it less resistant to slippage. And the last thing you want is the strap to slip back through and drop the you know, one side will slip, and then the whole thing will come crashing down. So when you feed the strap through, make sure it goes on the inside, on the underside of the buckle, to give the best resistance. And then you've got the rain guard here. As you can see, it's tethered to the strap. So I'll just flick on to the next slide for the rain guards. Rain guards come in various designs. This one in the foreground here, Opticron rain guard. You can see you can tether it on the left side there, and that just stops the rain guard from going astray. And the rain guard is really there to protect the lenses from the elements. So if you're out in the field and it's suddenly you walk into a downpour, you can just keep the rain guard over the lenses to keep them dry. But then, if you need to use the binoculars, you can just flick it to the one side. It'll be secure on the strap, and then you can place it back when you need to. Other rain guards, they have the gaps on both sides. So this nice one here on the left, but it gives you the option to tether it on the right side rather than the left side, but you don't want to tether both sides because otherwise the rain guard it'll just be in the way if you do that. So it's really usually preferable to tether it to just one side. And then you've got the another rain guard design here on the right. This has got the complete loop on the left and then a partial loop on the right hand side. We often have customers who see this and they say, oh, the rain guard is broken, it's got a split on the one side, but it's actually designed to be like that, so that you can part tether it to the right hand of the strap, so that it gives it a little bit more sort of security, keeps it in place. But if you do need to quickly release it, you can just sort of flick it away, and it just gives it a little bit more security there. But it's not a fault. That is exactly how they're designed. And then you need to, once you've done that, set the binocular up. So this goes back to the introduction slide, talking about the Diopter Adjuster. Now the Diopter Adjuster is there to allow compensation. So most people generally have maybe one eye that's slightly stronger than the other, usually some sort of imbalance, and you can compensate for that by adjusting what they call the Diopter Adjuster. Now this can be in various places, but first what you need to do is look through the left-hand side of the binocular. So close the right-hand lens, so you see the picture on the right here, and just leave the left hand open. Obviously you can use your hand if there aren't any objective lens caps included, but most binoculars will include these objective lens caps. So just concentrate on the left side and use the focus wheel, use the center focus wheel to adjust the image. And usually you want to choose an object, for example, like a TV aerial or a lamppost or a branch of a tree, something that's well defined that you can focus on to get a nice sharp image. And then once you've done that, once you've got the image as sharp as you can possibly get it, you then need to adjust for the right side. So look through the right hand side of the binocular, closing the left hand side up, so you've got the right hand view fully open. And then again, look at the same object that you've chosen, but instead of focusing with the center focus wheel, when you do this adjustment, you use what they call the Diopter Adjuster. This will usually be a ring or a dial on the binocular. So on the left-hand side, you've got a typical Diopter Adjuster there, a ring that will move left and right. And as you look through the binocular, you just adjust that slightly, and you just fine-tune it until you get a sharp image through the right-hand barrel. And so, as I say, some of the more expensive models, the Diopter Adjuster may actually be on the focus wheel itself. So this one in the middle here, for example, on the Zeiss, it's just a little round cap that you pull up, do the adjustment, and then push down. And on that one, for example, that will actually stay in place. It will remain there so that it doesn't slip out of position. And then this one on the Opticron on the right-hand side, that will allow you to make exactly the same adjustment. You just pull the cap up, adjust, and then pop the cap back down, and it will lock in place. But they all effectively achieve the same thing, a sharp image through the right-hand view of the binocular. And then once you've done that, and it's all nice and crisp, you can then open up the left side again, and you should then have two perfectly aligned barrels and a crisp, completely sharp image throughout the range. The other critical thing is the hinge adjustment. This is something that causes people problems sometimes if they've never used a pair of binoculars before. It's critical that you get the spacing between your eyes just right. And the only way to achieve that is to just it's obviously going to vary from user to user. Just tweak the hinge in. So this is in the widest position, and then just pinch them in to adjust accordingly. Because what you don't want is certainly don't want the left-hand side. You don't want a completely blackout view, and ideally you don't want the one in the middle either, because that's you've only got partial view there. And this will largely be down to the fact that you haven't got the hinge just spaced correctly for your eyes. What you're really looking for is something more akin to the right-hand image, where you've got one complete circle without any obvious shadowing. And again, this can be adjusted for on the eye cup. So going back to the eye cups, when we mentioned those in relation to eye relief, if you're a spectacle wearer, you generally have the eye cup down so that your glasses are nearer to the lens, as in on the right hand side here. But if you're a non-spectacle wearer, you generally tend to extend the eye cup so it will twist out. And on most modern roof prism binoculars, this is it's a retractable eye cup. It'll have various click stops on a lot of binoculars, so you can have incremental positions. For some people, it's better. It works better if it's fully extended, but on others, you may want it sort of halfway down or a third the way down. And again, just going back to that previous image, it will help eliminate any of this sort of shadowing or even the complete blackout. So again, it's very critical that you get this set up correctly. With some of the older style poro prisms, they may have rubber eye cups, but the same principle applies. You fold down the eye cup if you're a spectacle wearer, and keep it out if you're not. But on this left hand side, as you can see, it's in the extended position. There's no further adjustment. It's sort of either folded down or it's not folded down. Whereas on the twist out eye cups, you've got a little bit more sort of flexibility in terms of where you position the eye cup when it's extended. But either way, it's critical you get that just right for your eyes. And then using the binoculars. Now, this is obviously going to be second nature to those people that are more familiar with using binoculars. But one critical thing is that when you're out birding, and you just look up, say, into a tree, or you see something floating over in the sky, high up a raptor, for example, what you don't want to do is take your eye off it. What you want to do is maintain a visual track of the bird, and then raise the binoculars up. So, for example, you locate the bird, you're looking up into the tree, your binoculars are hanging down. Keep your eye on the bird. Don't take your eye off the bird, because if you do that and look down at your binoculars, put the binoculars to your eye, and then you're just fighting, you're looking into the tree again, and you can't locate it. So just maintain visual contact with the bird, gently raise the binoculars up, keep looking, and then line them up automatically, and you should then just drop onto the bird pretty quickly, assuming it's still there, of course. But if it's there, that is by far and away the quickest way of getting onto a bird. And then accessories of binoculars. There's a few useful accessories. Probably the most useful is a binocular harness, especially if you've got a slightly heavier pair of binoculars. It certainly relieves the neck strain. If you're out birding all day, you do start to feel it on the back of your neck. So a harness is a great accessory. It spreads the weight over your shoulders, and they are gaining in popularity. I think the more people that you see out using them, it sort of think, oh, that looks really useful, and they are. They, as I say, it's amazing how much, particularly on heavy binoculars, how much strain it puts on the neck over a long period of time. And they also have the added advantage of reducing swing. So if you're sort of rushing down the path to see a bird and the binoculars are bouncing around on your chest, it sort of pretty much prevents that. It sort of holds them in a more stable position. And again, if you're, say, climbing over a stile or something, or a gate, it saves them sort of swinging and potentially bang into a post or something. It just gives you a more secure fitting. Winged eye cups, again, these are usually optional extras, so people put these on the eye cups. Useful for preventing stray light, particularly in bright sunny conditions. But they don't suit everyone, particularly for spectacle wearers. They can be a bit of a hindrance, so probably not so useful there. But they serve a purpose. And then you can use your binoculars for phone scoping, particularly phone scoping. With the modern technology now in the latest generation of smartphones, the results you can get are pretty amazing. Although with binoculars, as opposed to spotting scopes, you do need a very steady hand to to obtain an image, and this unfortunately this isn't quite as it seems. This is really more for demo purposes. This was taken outside our shop here in Worcester, and to see a Siberian ruby throat in the bushes in there would be some event. But you get the idea. That's the sort of thing you're aiming for. But it's not that easy, and it takes a bit of practice. But it just shows how versatile binoculars can be when you combine them with a smartphone. And then moving on to care and cleaning, which is very critical, particularly with the glass surfaces of binocular. You want to keep them in tip-top condition, and inevitably birding takes you into some pretty hostile environments. So this is my pair of Leicas from a few years ago. This was in the little Rana of Kutch. So for the people watching in India, be a familiar territory. But the environment there is extremely hostile for optics. I mean, it's just obviously very hot, but incredibly dusty. And when you're bouncing about on the back of a pickup truck for several hours, you not only do your optics become coated in dust, but so do you. And this was after about 4 hours. And of course, the other thing in the little Rana of Kutch is not only is it very dusty, but it's also very salty. So it's really the worst possible combination for optics. But as you can see, those were pretty well coated. And really, in that situation, the best thing to do is to try and blow off all the excess dust, and run them under the tap. Most of these binoculars will survive, and try and remove it as much of it as you can as soon as you can, because you don't want that building up over a period of time. It will have a detrimental effect on the that gets into the hinge and the focusing it and the eye cups. It'll begin to they can begin to clog up, let alone damage the glass surfaces, which is the most critical thing on a binocular. And for the glass, you really want to use a lens cleaning kit, something akin to this. So it comes with a little puffer to blow off all excess dust and grit. Anything else then you can brush off, and then finally once you've removed all that dust and grit, then you can apply a lens cleaning fluid, or just breathe on it, and then just very, very gently rub the surfaces with a soft sort of microfiber cloth, something like that, but nothing too abrasive. I mean, I know it's easy sometimes when you're out in the field just to grab the hanky or a tissue from your pocket and rub that onto the glass, but that can do quite a lot of damage over time. And it's surprising, it can degrade the coatings, scratch the lenses, and it will over many years it'll deteriorate the image that you see. So yeah, sometimes it's less is more when you're cleaning optics. Try and do it as little as often, really, but obviously if you need to do it, you need to do it. But don't become obsessed with it, because you can overdo it and cause more damage than good, really. But and then another feature of particularly the more expensive binoculars, removable eye cups. So removable eye cups enable you to really get underneath and get all the excess sand and grit out, because again, eye cups are often very susceptible to seizing up if they get clogged up with sand and grit. Particularly fine sand, it just gets everywhere. So this is a useful feature. You can unscrew them, get all the dust wipe all down, and then pop them back on, and they usually just screw back on, and then you can then reuse them. The retractable eye cup will still work; it'll function fully. But if you have those, that's a useful feature, and keep those nice and free and clean. Before we go on to spotting scopes, I'll just briefly touch on binoculars. These, again, much like compact binoculars, these have grown hugely in popularity during lockdown, I guess, with more people coming on board and taking an interest in the natural world, staying close to home. People are sort of looking for something that's light and portable. You can just slip in the pocket, maybe when you're out walking the dog. You've always got something with you. So binoculars have grown hugely in popularity, as I say. And they vary in size, just like binoculars. You little compact 25mm on the left there. You could almost just pop that in the top, in a shirt pocket or something, and then you've got something a bit more substantial, like 42mm binocular on the right. And quite a useful feature, that one, actually, with the top focus, because it means you can hold it and adjust the focus with one hand. So if you're For example, taking the dog for a walk, you've got one hand holding the lead, and you can use the binocular and still focus quite easily with that setup. And just like binoculars, you can also attach your smartphone to them. So this is a 25mm binocular with a smartphone adapter to it. Probably not quite as user-friendly, it's a little bit more fiddly, but again, you know, it is something you can explore and have a play with, give a whole new dimension to binoculars. But really, once you've invested in the binoculars, it's probably then the next natural step is to venture into the spotting scope market. And again, just like binoculars, there's a huge range of spotting scopes available. So you've got this big monstrous Swarovski 95mm objective scope there. That's sort of the creme de la creme of spotting scopes. But also growing in popularity are the little compact travel scopes. So again, as I say, there's a huge choice of scopes, various sizes. I mean, this is just from one range of scopes made by Hawk. You've got a little 50mm on the right hand side, 60 in the middle, and then an 85. So those, you know, give you a lot of versatility. Depending on your choice, whether you're prepared to carry something big and heavy like the one on the left, or you want something a bit more portable that you can just pop in a rucksack, and you could almost sort of hand hold the one on the right hand side there, particularly at the low end of the magnification range. Whereas the bigger ones, you would certainly need a tripod to keep the instrument steady. And then scopes generally come in angled or straight configurations. So you've got, you know, something else to consider there. With the straight scopes, it's certainly easier initially if you're new to scopes to locate the subject, because you're essentially looking dead ahead, and it's easier to lock onto the target. The one thing to consider though is that you generally need the scope at a higher elevation to reach your eye. So it can be a little bit more unstable particularly if you're tall. You'll need the tripod sort of fully extended almost. Whereas with an angled scope, so here's good old Deepak from Asian Adventures, putting the what was that, the Kawa TSN 773 through its paces, scanning for Great Indian Bustard, no doubt, which he managed to show us last year. I think last year. Seems a long time ago now, but obviously just pre-COVID, thankfully. But angled scopes are generally the most popular for birding. It's a much more relaxed viewing. As you can see here, you're looking down into the scope. If you can imagine that was a straight scope, you'd need the tripod quite a bit higher, and you then sort of compromise stability. With an angled scope, you can have it at a lower center of gravity, so it gives you more stability. And generally, if you're scanning over a longer period of time, it's more relaxing. But it is personal preference. Some people, you know, the straight scopes still have their place, and we still sell a few of those. But in the main, I would say probably 90% of the scopes we sell are angled scopes. And then focusing on scope, so this is a barrel focus scope, so it's a lot of modern scopes go for this now. The barrel focusing gives it a more sleek design, cleaner lines, and maybe for people who've got larger hands, or say in the winter, if you wear it, well, particularly in the UK, if you're wearing gloves in cold climates, it can be sometimes a little bit easier to use the barrel focusing. But then alternatively, you've got going back to the Kawa 773 here, you've got the dual focus, as we call it. And you've got coarse focus, so you can see the wheel nearest to Deepak there. That's the coarse focus, so that will get you from, say, relatively close range to distant objects very quickly. And then the outer wheel will fine-tune the image. So particularly useful at the higher end of the magnification range. Most modern scopes have zoom eyepieces, so you can crank up the zoom. And then that's when the slightly going back towards back to where we were with depth of field, the focusing becomes a little bit more critical, and you can just fine-tune the image with the outer focus wheel. So they are very popular, and particularly with digiscopers, because when you're manual focusing your camera or smartphone, you can just fine-tune the image, and it gets it just nice and sharp. Size of scopes, again, as I say, there's a huge range. This is a medium range scope, medium-sized scope, not particularly heavy, but it gives you that sort of happy medium if you're traveling abroad. So this is one we took to the Himalayas back in 2019, I think it was, again with Deepak, we use this. It gives you all the pretty much the very close to the specifications of a full-size scope. But it's nice and portable. But if you want something ultra portable, you can go down to something like a real compact scope. So this has a 55mm objective lens. Probably doesn't weigh much more than a pair of binoculars. But yeah, nice and portable. You could just carry that in a rucksack. And if you were sat down, you could almost do away with a tripod, or you could use a monopod to support that. So it gives you a little bit more reach than a traditional pair of binoculars, but without all the bulk and the weight, particularly if you want to travel light. So again, nice and useful. This is a slight deviation. This is a sort of hybrid between a spotting scope and a binocular. So this is Swarovski's BTX. This is an entirely different proposition, really. This is a huge optical instrument, very heavy, but the viewing experience, as you'd expect, is astonishing, and particularly useful if you're in a stationary position. So if you're keen on sea watching or raptor watching, you can go to wherever it is, the watch point, and set this thing up and say scan out to sea for hours on end, and it just offers a very relaxed viewing experience. Unlike a spotting scope, if you're scanning out over the sea for hours on end, it can put a lot of strain on your eyes if you're just squinting through one eye through a traditional spotting scope. Whereas this gives you binocular vision, so it's sharing the eye strain, if you like, and you can keep on scanning without too much effort. But not many other options in this. This is Swarovski have pretty much cornered the market here. There have been other options, various adapters that you could gain binocular vision through a spotting scope, but nothing of this sort of quality has been offered before. So that's a unique sort of option. And then again, as with binoculars, you can use your spotting scope as effectively as a telephoto lens. In some cases, you can put the whole adapter will fit over the eyepiece, and then you manual focus through the scope. So this is a Swarovski scope with a micro four thirds. I think that was on there. The critical thing here, of course, is you do need a sturdy tripod. All that extra weight, it's particularly back heavy, if you like. So you need. This setup could really do with a balance rail to sort of equalize the weight balance there. But again, with practice, it's amazing the results you can get, which pretty pleasing when you consider some of the distances you can achieve with a spotting scope and a camera combination that you wouldn't necessarily get with a traditional camera lens. But it's evolution of spotting scopes, and obviously digital technology has made this whole concept a lot easier now. And then progressing on to phone scoping, digiscoping with a mobile phone, smartphone. This obviously has gained popularity hugely in the last few years with the improvements in camera technology in smartphones. In some ways, traditional camera digiscoping is sort of tailing off and being sort of replaced in a way with these new super smartphones. The clarity is truly astonishing, and if you couple a top-end smartphone with a top-end scope, you can get some really nice images through the scope. Here we're using a straight scope, for example. Again, a little bit easier sometimes to get onto the target, but angled scopes are, the more you use them, they generally they're just as easy once you've mastered it. And again, there's that Siberian ruby throat popping up again. So that pretty much covers the spotting scopes and digiscoping. It's all very brief, of course, but we're more than happy to. It's difficult to cover everything in sort of minute detail in around an hour, but we're here at the Birder Store in Worcester, and we're more than happy to offer any advice, and particularly to our friends in India. It's we're a long way from there, but we'll be more than happy if you have any queries regarding optics. just drop us an email. We'll be more than happy to help. As the name suggests, the Birders store is run by birders, so we are out there doing this stuff. You know, we're not just an outfit that sort of happens to sell this gear. We are using it, and we enjoy birding. And when I put this slideshow together, I was asked to put just a few slides together of some of the birds I've been fortunate to see in India on my travels. And that was a really hard task, trying to nail it down to sort of 10 or so birds, but here goes. So we'll start off with this beauty, black and orange flycatcher, which I saw last year down in the south end of the Western Ghats. Absolutely cracking birds, and this was the first one we saw, so I was desperate to get a photograph, and then I think the next day we just kept bumping into them. So but never tire of seeing this species. Just amazing. And another striking flycatcher, Ultramarine Flycatcher. Again, what can you say? Stunning bird. Just nothing really in the flycatcher family in Europe that we have that comes close to either of these two species. Most of our flycatchers tend to be on a brown or black theme, but obviously in India you've got some very, very colourful flycatchers. So that again is another highlight. And then pheasants in the UK, we're sort of slightly shortchanged on pheasants. We have one. Well, we don't really have any. We don't have any native species of pheasant. To be fair, they're all introduced to greater or lesser extent. The common pheasant in the UK is extremely common, but that's because it's released in vast numbers. And then we have a couple of other species which were introduced many decades ago, but have pretty much died out. So to see wild pheasants is always a privilege, particularly this species, cheer pheasant. It's always a top bird to see when you visit the Himalayan foothills. And we were fortunate to see this species when we stayed at Jungle Law, again ably guided by Deepak at Asian Adventures. And after some effort, we struck lucky, and I think we saw 3 birds in total. Actually, you can just see, I only just noticed this, just in the same direction that the bird is looking, there's the tail of a second bird. But yeah, fantastic bird, and just the environment. It was a real privilege to see them in that stunning scenery that they inhabit. Yeah, unforgettable experience. And also cockless pheasant, we saw, I think the previous morning, we struck lucky with these fairly quickly. Again, eagle-eyed Deepak spotted these. I think it was a male and 2 females feeding on the roadside. Luckily, the male lingered long enough for a few photos, but what a stunning bird. And again, one of the highlights of our stay at Pangot. As was this spotted forktail, again an exquisite bird, nothing like this in Europe. So always a privilege to see these sort of birds. This was at I think this was photographed at Satal, one of the streams there. But the most confiding bird we saw of those, we saw several spotted forktails in various locations, but this bird really put on a show for us. And there we are. What a bird! This was last year, demoiselle cranes. I think this is always going to be a highlight for birders visiting India. Just the sheer spectacle of seeing so many cranes. I mean, we have common cranes in the UK, but in very, very small numbers. In most parts of the UK, it's still a fairly rare bird. But this is, yeah, I mean, we saw thousands upon thousands at obviously at the Kachan, at the feeding station where this photograph was taken. And it's really not just the bird, it's the whole spectacle, and the fact that when you look up into the sky, all you can see is demoiselle cranes circling, and the sounds as well. The sounds are just incredible. So anybody who's not been to India, you have to see this. This is one of the, not just one of the greatest spectacles of Indian birding, but of world birding. It's right up there. So definitely worth making the effort. And then I'm a bit of a sucker for waders, wading birds. This isn't a typical wader, granted, but it's still a wader, and it's the Indian courser, of course, and it's just a stunningly beautiful wader. We have cream-coloured courser in Europe, or at least in parts of southern Europe occasionally, and even occasionally they stray to the UK. But to see these birds with such ease and close quarters and in good numbers, again, a real privilege. Indian spotted creeper, one of my favourite birds in India. I've seen this a few times now. Just an amazing species, really. So charismatic when you see them, and the song is beautiful, but just their habits and the fact that it takes a bit of effort to see them. Well, in some cases, a lot of effort. I remember we put in many hours when I saw my first one. But the plumage as well. I mean, it's such a beautifully marked bird, and perfectly suited to its habitat. I mean, just look at that; it almost looks like an extension of the tree. But yeah, just again, an unforgettable experience. Redneck falcon, never tire seeing these. I mean, that's nothing really like that in Europe. It's just a truly stunning falcon, tiny bird. But we located this bird. We were traveling, I think, from Taoshapa to Bikaner, and Deepak amazingly spotted this bird just as we were moving along, and there it was, and we pulled up quickly, reversed, and it stayed in place, and it just sort of it seemed completely unconcerned, just posing their fantastic views of that redneck falcon. Tawny eagle, that again, that was on the same tour. I think this was at Taoshapa. Yeah, great. I mean, we're so deprived of eagles in Europe, really. We have a few, but you rarely get views of them as close as this. And obviously in India, there's just not only more species, but just vast numbers in comparison to what we're used to. So again, another privileged sighting. And that pretty much brings us to the end. So this is again back to the Birder store in Worcester in the UK. This is where we're based. This is where we operate from. All obviously our shop customers and online business is done from here. All the packing, distribution, and this is just a few shots of the inside. At the moment, sadly, it doesn't quite look like this. This was pre-lockdown. So at the moment, because we've been doing a lot more online, it's beginning to look more like a warehouse. But hopefully, once lockdown is eased a bit more, we can open up more fully and try and get back things back to normal. This is the books. We sort of pride ourselves on being a sort of one-stop shop, if you like. So we don't just sell optics; we sell the accessories, the books, the DVDs, the whole gamut really of birding accessories. And we ship pretty much all over the world. It's not quite as easy as it was now that we've left the European Union. It's things are a little bit mixed, but hopefully things will settle down and we can start shipping again on a more regular basis. But we send optics. It's surprising how many people do buy optics, over the phone or through the website. But we always take great care in how we send things. Everything's checked before it's sent and well packed, because we have to try and predict how these things are going to travel through the postal system, and they need to arrive unscathed when the postman comes knocking. And that's the team. That's me on the left there, and then Bev and Craig, who work in our store in Worcester. And Craig is now the Worcestershire County bird recorder. So he's now does the job that I used to do many years ago. Keen birder, and Bev is also very good on her technical knowledge. She's not a birder as such, but she certainly has an interest, and she'll often answer the phone and deal with any queries, technical queries and things like that. So we have a good team, and there's our card, there's our contact details. As I say, if you need to contact us for any queries, anything that we haven't covered or covered in enough detail on this presentation, then please feel free to contact us. And as I say, that courtesy extends to our friends wherever you may be, and obviously to all our friends watching in India this evening. So I think that pretty much covers it. There we go.
That's excellent. What a lovely presentation. This was Brian, absolutely wonderful. Some friends have some questions to ask. Can we take a few questions? Yes. Sahil is asking, where do you rank Polaris Binocular 12 by 50?
Polaris. That's a good question. That's not a brand I'm familiar with. Polaris, yeah, I'm not familiar. I mean, 12 by 50 is, as I say, 12s. I mean, we sell a few 12 by 50s, but they tend to be more for people that want maybe astronomy or just general observation rather than birding. Higher magnification binoculars, I would sort of steer away from. Maybe come down to say a 10. It just opens up the field of view, slightly brighter image. But yeah, I can't comment specifically on those. Yeah.
So Maddie is asking, how's the Nikon Monarch 8x42?
Very good. We don't stock Nikon as a brand. They tend, in the UK at least, they tend to be sold through camera retailers. But 842, yeah, I mean that's as I say, that's a binocular was certainly worth looking at. Nikon's got a good name, well-established brand. So 842, that really is the best all-rounder for bird watching. Yeah.
Thanks. Paddy is asking, which equipment did you use to take those pictures that you were showing? That was a bridge camera, so it wasn't through a spotting scope. That was through a Nikon P1000 bridge camera. That's my camera.
That's your camera. Good choice.
Yes. Okay, excellent. So Yogesh is asking, is it possible to have a scope delivered in India?
Yeah, well, it's possible, but in practice it might be tricky. You certainly need to look into shipping from the UK. You will be liable to import duty, which could be quite expensive. So it would be worth. It's something we would be happy to do, but we wouldn't want to, land you with some unpleasant surprises when it comes to the import duties being applied.
Yes. So Vivek had sent his binoculars for repairs, and when it came back, they polished it and they really spruced it up, and then they said, "Oh well, it didn't go for repairs. You got a new one, and so you got to pay full-fledged duty on it." So you got to be a little careful when you're doing things like that, because the company would, really shine your binocular and send it to you as if it's new. They may just change the casing and everything, and then the customer might tell you that, look, this is nowhere near old binocular, so you need to be careful with that.
Yeah, I guess one way around it would be to, if you wanted something delivered to India, if you have relatives in India, in the UK, we could obviously deliver to them in the UK, and then you could, just they could take it with them to India. That's one possibility. But yeah, it's tricky.
Yes. And Mr. Alkin is saying, any comments about exit pupil size and the age of the observer? It can vary. I mean, some people do struggle with exit pupils. You really want for the best viewing experience. You really want the largest exit pupil. But in an ideal world with all these things, you really want to try them first. Binoculars, and I probably didn't cover that in enough detail, but binoculars is a very personal thing. And try before you buy is probably the best way to go. But I appreciate that's not particularly in the age that we're living in now with COVID, with restrictions on travel and not all shops being fully open. It's not always possible to try everything out, but try before you buy is Okay, great. So I don't think he would be very far away from Worcester. So you could probably.
I mean, he's happy to. We can look into that. If he drops us an email, we can.
Yeah. Fantastic. So Praveen is saying, any example of starting range of binoculars and monoculars?
In terms of price or
yeah, I guess he's asking for price. He's saying that what's the starting range?
I mean, in the UK, you can get a good starting binocular for just under £100. So say somewhere between £80 and £100. So what's that in rupees? About 10,000 rupees. Is this person in India or?
Yeah, so this is in India, but I'd recommend 8x42 straight away.
Yes.
For any purchase that you make, whether it's poro or roof, you should go ahead with 8x42. And if you're a birder, then you may as well invest in a good binocular because it's going to last you a long time. And do look at the guarantees. I got my Leica in the year 2000. And it was a olive green color binocular. That time it was supposed to be the world best binocular, and I paid $2,000 at that point of time for it. And it was brought to me by my birding guru from Princeton, and it's my prized possession. I stick it to my chest. And although people have told me you can put it under a faucet and you can wash it, I haven't had the heart to do so.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Okay. So Maneet, another friend of ours, is asking, his binocular had an accident hit and now he's seeing 2 images. Possible to get it corrected anyway. He has Celestron Outland 8x42.
Yes, it is possible. That's a common problem. If you do knock your binoculars or drop them, they're likely to go out of alignment. So the one barrel isn't now aligned with the other barrel, and so that's why you're seeing 2 images. But it's certainly possible to get them repaired. The only issue is it may actually, depending on how much those binoculars were, to buy originally, it possibly will cost more to have them fixed than it costs to just buy a new pair. So just beware of the charges. They may be greater than the value of the binocular.
Yep. Fantastic. Vikram is asking, what would you recommend for an 8-year-old young birder? 8 years. Yeah,
sure. Probably something compact, low magnification. So maybe, if they can keep them steady. We do some children's binoculars at the shop, which are 6x25, I think they are. So they're nice and small for their hands, easy to keep steady. So yeah, I would concentrate on a compact sort of low magnification option.
Excellent. Nonita is asking, when setting the diopter, should you set with the master eye first or the other
one? You should always, most binoculars, well, in the UK, the diopter ring will be on the right-hand side of the binocular, unless it's on the focus wheel, as I showed earlier. So you always focus the left eye first, regardless of whether one is stronger than if you have one eye that's stronger than the other. You always start with the left hand side of the binocular first.
Excellent. Patty is asking, how would you compare Zeiss with Nikon, and how is Steiner as a brand?
Well, Zeiss is what we in the UK call an alpha brand. So that's the sort of the top 3 alpha brands are Zeiss, Leica, and Swarovski. Nikon are sort of mid-range. Certainly in the UK, we would describe those as mid-range, and also Steiner. But we don't. We certainly stock Zeiss, and I think Zeiss is quite well known. Well, pretty well known in India, isn't it?
Yes.
Brand. Steiner, I'm not sure what the availability is. I know Nikon is a worldwide brand, and I know that's certainly available in India. But again, Steiner isn't a brand. We used to deal with Steiner, but not at the moment, because Brexit has made some things slightly harder to import. So we've put Steiner on hold for the time being. But yeah, but out of those 3, then Zeiss is clearly the best one.
Okay. Deepak Verma is asking, how is Hawk binocular? I don't know what that is.
Hawk binoculars, yeah. They're a really good brand. They're one of the few brands that offer the lifetime warranty. So, and as I say, that includes the, as mentioned earlier, if you drop them, for example, if they went out of alignment, like the other query, they would be able to fix that free of charge for you. So that's all covered within the warranty. That's certainly the case in the UK, but I don't know about Hawk in India, for example, whether they distribute. They're fairly country specific. They don't cover everywhere. So unlike Nikon, which is pretty universal.
Fantastic. I think this was a good question and answer session, Brian. I'm so pleased. Let me share the file with friends who want to know how to use binoculars and scopes. Brian has produced a file that you can use, and I've shared it with you, friends. You can download it. There's one more question that Mukul is asking: how is kite? How are kite binoculars, say 10 by 42? Kite. Do you know of kite?
Kite, yes. Kite. We're one of the few dealers in the UK that sell kite binoculars. They're a Belgian company. Very, very good quality. Very good quality binoculars. But again, I don't know of the availability of kite outside Europe. It is very much a European brand. But yeah, excellent binoculars.
Excellent, excellent. So friends, thank you very much for being here and for giving us all your time. This was really useful for me as well. And thank you, Brian, for bringing this huge amount of information, truckloads of information that you got for us in about an hour and a half. So I think there's a lot of takeaway from people. Friends this is going to also be coming to you as a replay link in your email tomorrow morning. So if you'd like to share this with your friends, please go right ahead and do it, so that people don't miss out on this key information. Anyway, this information will be uploaded on YouTube, during the course of next week, and we'll let you know. And okay, great. Shamal is thanking us for the PDF that they've downloaded. You're most welcome, Shamal. And Brian, it's your beer time. It's it's 4:30. Yeah. Yes. Lovely. Thank you for being here, my friend, and thank you for all this information. And we just need to pray to Lord so that we can start taking out equipment and start using it in the field as soon as this virus subsides and the situations allow. And stay safe, stay healthy. Love you all. Shabba khair. Good night. Bye bye. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye bye. Pranam. Bye bye.